What are Bouncy Kachina's biggest pros and cons? That's what I'm here to tell you today. My name is Juice and let's get into it. The immediate biggest pro that I can think of for Kachina is that she's going to fill the effective and cheap Geo buffer shaped hole in the hearts of all Navia mains. Yes lads, we've finally won! Kachina will now officially be Navia's new best in slot Geo partner. I can't wait, dude. Notline is coming out in less than 2 days from here, and I'm hoping for multiple copies of Kachina off of Mualani's banner. But as we all know, 4-star comms are expensive. Where can I go to buy cheaper Primo Gems? Well, allow me to introduce you to Loot Bar. Loot Bar is a wondrous service which can offer you cheaper Genesis Crystals and Stellar Jades compared to the official prices shown in-game. Look at this comparison between the official cost and the Loot Bar cost. New users get a wonderful 5% off, and the prices are up to 20% cheaper compared to the official channel. Loot Bar is completely safe as a service, and has countless positive reviews. But how does it actually work? Glad you asked, my friend. First, input your UID. That's right, you need no login information whatsoever. Choose your desired package, and then boom, what do you know, more Primo Gems for me. This is all legit since the site uses a VPN, which is how they cheapen the Primo Gems, and official top-up methods are used. Check out Loot Bar today to save on all your gacha needs. Very epic, a new best-in-slot partner for Navia teams, yet why is that? How exactly does this little drill kid beat out Navia's previous best-in-slot Geo partner, C0R0 plus Chiori? Allow me to introduce you to none other than Scroll of the Hero of Cinder City. This set, when held and triggered by a not-one character, can provide a whopping 40% damage bonus to both elements involved in an elemental reaction. So essentially, if Pyro and Hydro create Vaporize, then both Pyro and Hydro characters get their damage bonus percent buffed by 40%, because both elements were involved in creating the reaction. So how does this matter for Geo? After all, Geos can only trigger Crystallize. Simple. If an enemy has a Pyro aura applied and you apply Geo over it to create Crystallize, that counts as a quote-unquote Pyro-related reaction, so both Geo and Pyro get 40% extra damage bonus. This is especially good because it turns Navia into an even more accessible carry than she was before. Chiori is a niche-limited 5-star who isn't even at her full potential in constructless Navia teams, and she never had any real synergy with Navia outside of providing crystallite shards for her. She doesn't actually buff Navia in any meaningful sort of way, yet Chiori's sub-DPS was always better than what any other partner Geo could provide. Kachina beats out C0R1 Chiori easily, because she actually buffs both Navia's damage and the damage of the sub-DPS you're playing her with, whether that be Farina, Xiangling, Xilonen, etc., because with how this set works, requiring a reaction between 2 elements to trigger the set's lucrative buffs, one other element will always get caught on the crossfire. This only furthers Kachina's positive case in Navia teams, and makes up for losing Chiori's sub-DPS in spades. Kachina is literally free, negating Chiori's pull value for Navia teams completely, finally delivering us our long-awaited Navia buffer. Not to mention how Kachina is going to be generating a nice amount of crystal shrapnel for Navia as well, as Kachina's personal kit centers around Geo sub-DPS shenanigans. Kachina also paves the way for Navia's most free-to-play setup of all time, an extremely effective one at that. Navia, Kachina, Bennett, and Xiangling. 2 of those characters are free, and Bennett is a character that you should naturally already be chasing after. Navia herself is getting her best budget option buffed up with Notlan's release, as her new free-to-play best in slot is going to be the Notlan craftable claymore thanks to the skill damage it provides, which is the main meat of Navia's kit. Tidal Shadow is better if you're getting healed consistently, aka if you're playing Navia with Farina, but the new Not Long craftable claymore is going to be better in all other scenarios, therefore being a more consistent pick on the whole. And for those of you who care about fancy speedrunning terms, this means that Navia finally has a really solid one-cost team. Navia was always really accessible, but I seriously look forward to seeing the heights that our nukes can now reach with Kachina being around. And the fact that Kachina is free makes this so much better. You realistically don't even have to level her if you don't care about Kachina's own DPS if resource investment is what you're worried about, due to power creep. Nah, keep her at level 20 since all of her Ascension passives and abilities center around her own damage. You can achieve all the great qualities that I've listed above with a completely resource-untouched Kachina. All you have to do is equip her with a 4-piece Cinder City set. Granted, it can still be worth investing a little bit of resources into her to top up her sub-DPS contributions, but I felt that this was an important mention for all you Xilonen viewers out there. TLDR, you can literally still make amazing use of the Kachina Navia duo with zero resource/resin investment poured into your Kachina. She will still be best in slot as long as you have Cinder City equipped on her. She truly is the long-awaited Navia concession. Another big selling point in Kachina's favor is that she isn't only tied to Navia teams. Yes, that is where she is going to shine best in my opinion, but she can take her Cinder City buffing into any team that is not ruined by Geo application. As long as there is an element for her to react with to create Crystallize, Kachina can comfortably proc Cinder City's buff. This is especially nice in teams that already have the potential to slot a Geo character as their last option. For example, if you're a C0 Arlecchino player and your Farina is also C0, then those two aren't worth running together yet. You'll most likely be using Xilonen, Xiangling, or Emily. Xilonen does have a ramping damage bonus, but if we average out the buff to account for its backload, it's about 25% extra damage bonus on average. Zhongli can be flexed onto the back of an Arlecchino team if you're finding her too difficult to play shieldless against bosses that stagger you to the high heavens. He does bring a 20% universal red shred, which is very cool, and notice how his Geo application does not ruin the team. It should be noted that this is partially because Zhongli's pillar doesn't apply in a very wide AoE in the first place, but the team does not suddenly fall apart because Geo was added in. Let's throw Kachina into the picture now. 40% damage bonus and enough Geo application to generate lots of crystallized shields to prevent Arlecchino from constantly getting staggered. Not to mention, a free 4-star. Sure, you aren't getting 4VV's red shred from Kazuha, nor is the protection as good as Zhongli's, but the point still stands that Kachina is a viable flex alternative for one of the current best characters in the game. Might I add that it's very realistic for Kazuha to be busy when his other best use cases are Neuvillette and Lyney, two other extremely powerful DPSs, and there's also Clorand, who is a popular DPS in general. In fact, Kachina is a fantastic 4th slot for Neuvillette. Kachina can cover for you when Kazuha cannot, and shoot, that also goes for Neuvillette and Clorand. It's also worth noting that in order for Kazuha to provide 40% damage bonus to a team, he needs 1000 EM. Reaching that amount of EM on consistent ER requirements is very difficult without a Freedom Sworn or R3 plus Zephos' Moonlight. Even reaching that on Freedom Sworn is hard, because Kazuha wants at least 180 plus ER to burst comfortably in most teams. Kachina has no such weaknesses. So this makes her a great and considerable pick for all of you who don't have a Navia. I should also highlight how insane it is that Kachina, a free 4-star, beats Chiori, a C0R1 5-star, a limited one at that. That is absolutely diabolical for Chiori's pull value, but it's undeniably a better thing for us players and for anybody who isn't a Chiori simp. F to all the Chiori simps in the audience, but don't fear, she isn't benched just yet. Kachina's little drill thing counts as a Geo construct, so you can form an awesome core of Chiori Kachina that can be stuck onto the end of elemental damage dealers so that Kachina can buff both them and Chiori herself. But anyways, Kachina being a good free unit is huge, because everybody is going to have access to this Kazuha alternative even as a new player. Might I remind you that after the Liyue Archon quest, you can skip the rest of the quests and head straight to Notlan, so Kachina quite literally will be for everyone. If we look at all of the other permanent free units Genshin Impact has given out, the starting few characters that you get are alright, I suppose, with Barbara being the most solid in my opinion, as she can work in Nilou Bloom and drive Farina Mono Hydro, plus she can act as a competent TDDS holder and benefit from the book's HP% substat. Xiangling is amazing, I'm not gonna say anything bad here, she's a fantastic unit with so many applications. Kole is a Nilou unit, that's it, no Nilou, no Cigar, as DMC's Dendro application circle is way larger than Kole's, making them a better free-to-play Dendro than Kole. Lynette is a good aggravate Animo, but that's it. Decent free unit, but she's pretty quickly replaceable. I do think that Xiangling is still the best free unit in the game, but Kachina easily takes the second spot by a large margin. The others wish that they could touch Kachina's insane value. Also, this crazy value that I speak of, it's all right out of the box, C0, because Kachina's Constellations are more for her own damage output, so if you're ignoring that and building her as a Cinder City bot, then you're getting the full value package of everything that I've just spoken about at C0. Crazy! I'd also like to mention that Kachina seems to have wonderful exploration. Yes, Kirara's box form isn't that much different from what Kachina's drill can do, but the reason that I point this out is because you don't have to do any gacha pulls in order to access Kachina's amazing explorative abilities. Right out of the gate, you gain access to a unit with enhanced climbing and movement abilities. This is especially good for newer players who haven't had the chance to build up their roster that much yet, so they may not have the likes of Xian, Yan, Yolan, Scaramouche and such who have enhanced movement abilities. Kirara was indeed free from the recent summer event, but plenty of new players are going to come to the game upon 5.0's release, so she's a character that typically requires gacha pulls to attain. The same goes for Sayu, but with Kachina, a 4-star taxi team is becoming more and more realistic. Kachina, Kirara, Sayu, now we just need one more. So yeah, on the whole, Kachina's exploration is nothing to scoff at, especially considering her accessibility. One of the biggest shames about Kachina is that she has no buffing within her actual kit. Her whole entire value stream comes from 4-piece Cinder City, and if you aren't interested in using Cinder City on her, she suddenly becomes a very mediocre unit. Now, on its own, I don't think having value tied to an artifact set is inherently a bad thing. After all, one of the biggest reasons why animo characters are so good is that they can use 4-piece Viridescent Venerer. But if Kachina had some small team-wide buffing in the kit itself, oh my goodness, we could have been looking at a 4-star for the ages. I'd say that the con here isn't so much what Kachina turned out to be, because what we're getting is unfathomably good for a free C0 4-star unit in my opinion. Rather, it's a shame that there's some clear missed potential here, because if they doubled down on Kachina being a buffer, Kachina could have even rivaled Zhongli's level of universality across teams. Alas, I think they're saving the craziest buffing of them all for Xilonen. Speaking of which, Kachina's incredibly high value is a bit of a ticking time bomb. It's not rocket science. Put 2 and 2 together, obviously Xilonen is going to power creep Kachina with her role as the best Navia support on the whole, and the most universal 4-piece Cinder City user. Essentially, Kachina's fame is going to be very short-lived if you're interested in the Leopard Lady. I will say that I don't even think that this kills Kachina. Not everybody is going to want to pull for Xilonen, a whole limited 5-star, when their free C0 4-star is still good enough to clear the Abyss in excellent timing. It'd be upgrading for the sake of upgrading. Plus, there's multiple other reasons as to why somebody may not care for Xilonen. What if you're not even a Navia main? Heck, you don't even own Navia, and Kachina's whole hype is that she's a super cheap Kazuha alternative. Banners also take months at a time to return. If somebody misses Xilonen's banner in 5.1, which is very realistic, as I myself began Genshin Impact at the very beginning of Kokomi's banner in 2.1, just missing the Raiden Shogun's first banner, then Kachina is a permanent free alternative for people to use while they're waiting for Xilonen to come back. Kachina is free to try at the end of the day. Yes, Xilonen is definitely going to overshadow her, but dude, Xilonen is releasing in 5.1, Sumerian Fontaine's Archons both released during the X.2 patches of their era. Plenty of people are going to be skipping Xilonen in favor of Mavu Ika, who is the freaking Pyro Archon after all. You know, only the next meta-defining unit for the next year of Genshin Impact that will decide how good all future and previous Notline units are. But it would be disingenuous of me to act like Xilonen havers are still gonna care about Kachina after pulling for Kachina's direct upgrade, outside of perhaps challenge runs. After all, I am the same person who says that once you have both a Farina and Yolan on your account, Xingqiu isn't gonna see nearly as much use for you. I'm extremely happy with the state of Kachina, a super resource cheap 4-star that pretty much anybody under the sun can take advantage of, and her being Geo is actually to her benefit, as she will be aiding Navia wonderfully. I've been after a competent Navia buffer for far too long at this stage, as I really didn't want to use Chiori in a team that goes against her so hard. Amazing free unit, she'll cost you 0 Primo Gems, and pretty much all of these pros were made with C0 in mind. Give her a good spin. Hopefully this video was able to tell you Kachina's biggest pros and cons. This has been Juice, signing out, and I wonder how fast she's gonna mine crystals since she has a drill.